What's up, everybody? Unrested here, and finally back after a very long sabbatical. Wife just had influenza A, my kids just had influenza B. Just finally getting back to making videos again after I took care of all of them. I'm the only one who dodged that flu shot, and I'm the only one who didn't get the flu. Kinda odd, right? Makes you think, do you really need that flu shot? Anyway, today we're going to talk about a couple of Japanese words that are pretty much what you would consider Japanese English. And by Japanese English, I mean pretty much it's a word that sounds like English, but it was created by the Japanese. So it has its kind of own unique meaning and kind of its own unique combination, usually of English words that you and I probably have either never used or never used in the way that it's used in these words or these definitions. So let's get right into our list here. Our first one is a pretty wacky one. It's called skinship. And that's just like you would say like friendship or relationship. This one's called skinship. And skinship is when you make physical contact with a person either at the job or hanging out with friends or kind of roughhousing, horseplay, buddy-buddy, or if it's in childcare, it usually means like if a kid's very huggy or snuggly or wants to always hold hands, that is skinship. The flesh on flesh. It sounds so very wrong when I try to make a definition out of that word. Skinship, very strange one. Next one is metabolic syndrome, and that is for metabolic syndrome. And it's used in the manner of someone who is overweight for their height. And it's usually something that's cracked down on a lot in jobs because the government will actually end up charging a lot more for the health care that they have to issue as far as national health care. So some companies are very strict on you not having metabolic syndrome. Next is another syndrome. It's economy syndrome, and this was the strangest one I'd ever heard. It's if you're on a plane and you're very cramped by a small seat. So we would either say maybe like claustrophobic in English, or how else could we have said that? I'm pretty much only being stuck in a very short, small place. As you probably know, most of the places in Japan tend to be narrow, small, semi, and that goes even more so for the planes and flights and seats, even first class sometimes being very tiny. If you start to get sick of that, or you get sick of being tossed around and not being able to move around enough, you are said to have economy syndrome, because I imagine it means economy class. Next up, we have jet coaster. That is what you call a roller coaster in Japan, a jet coaster. It's not that odd. I don't think it's that strange of a name, but it is a different sort of pronunciation or combination of words to make the same meaning. Next is, I guess, not really a change of meaning, but just the pronunciation sounds very, very different. The word vinyl in Japanese is binaru, and the word virus in Japanese is bidesu. And those always sound very, very different when you change that V to a B sound. The next one's kind of a funny one. It is paper driver. Paper driver is somebody who has gotten their license in Japan, but hasn't really driven that much, so they're pretty much a bad driver who has a license who can barely drive a car. They call that person a paper driver. So it's like they've only had the paper qualify them as a driver. The actual driving experience itself is something that they're lacking. So that's kind of an interesting one. Next is a funny one. It's cherry boy. You've probably heard this one before. Cherry boy is another way to call a man a virgin. If they have never been with a girl intimately, they are a cherry boy. They're also sometimes called shy boy too sometimes, but it's a slightly different. Next is kind of the opposite, playboy. A group of women, or women will call you a playboy if you tend to have girlfriends a lot of the time, or are always flirting, or always very party guy, talking it up with a lot of ladies. They will most of the times give you the famous or maybe infamous name of Playboy. Next, the two last ones are usually ones you hear, I've heard mostly in my kind of line of work of teaching little kids. Mood maker. Mood maker is a kid or a person, or it can be an adult in a workplace, who makes the mood very upbeat, happy, and genki. They are called the mood maker of the place. Next up and last one on the list is one that's kind of a weird one. I always thought this was a very strange definition. High tension. High tension means a kid who is hyperactive or may have ADHD. They call that child a high tension child. For those of you who don't know, usually we use high tension for a situation that is very tense or possibly dangerous in the English language. Now, most of these you are going to hear in Japan when you come here, and be ready to tell some Japanese people that we don't actually say these kind of things, and they will be very surprised. Almost 100% of the time, Japanese often think that these are native English words, which almost all the time they are not. And so go ahead and bring that up sometime, and if you hear one of these and they say, economy syndrome, blah, 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 say, no, sorry, that isn't really actually part of our language. And just look at the shock on their face. I think you'll be surprised by that, and they will too. I hope you enjoyed everything you learned here today. I am unrested with the questions you requested. This is JFAQ, Japan's frequently asked questions. Have a good one.